the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Minister of State for Primary Education, the Chair of the Parliamentary Committee on Education and Sports, and the honorable members of the committee here present, the Permanent Secretary, the Ministry of Education and Sports, the Chair, Uganda National Examinations Board, the Chair, Education Service Commission, the Secretary, the Education Service Commission, senior members of staff from the Ministry of Education and Sports and from the Uganda National Examinations Board, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Minister, the Uganda National Examinations Board presents to you the results of the 2023 Uganda Certificate of Education Examination. The examination was conducted successfully under the theme, Integrity and Security in the Management of Examinations is a Joint Responsibility, a theme that was adopted to emphasize the need for all stakeholders in the examination process to play their roles. Total candidature. Candidature increased by 15,008, that's 4.3 candidates from 349,459 in 2022 to 364,469 in 2023. These candidates sat from 3,808 examination centers. Of these candidates, 118,633, or 32.5%, were beneficiaries of the government's Universal Secondary Education Program. The number of male candidates registered was 180,471, or 49.5%, and that of the females was 183,998, that is 50.5%. There were 3,527 more females than males who registered for this examination. Honorable Minister, a similar trend for the PLE registration is now being seen at the UCE as well. Mama, in 2023, 361,695 candidates, that is 179,032 males and 182,663 females, appeared for this examination, compared to a total of 345,695 candidates who appeared for the same examination in 2022. This is an increase of 16,000, or 4.6% candidates. The statistics of the number of candidates who registered for and those that sat for the last 5 years are given in Table 1. We note in Table 1, Mama, that absenteeism, as the chairperson has observed, has been steadily decreasing, except for 2022 when there was a slight increase, but has now come down quite well. A total of 809 special needs education candidates, made up of 368 males and 441 females, registered for the 2023 UCE examination, compared to 721 in 2022. This is an increase of 12.2% over the last year. These consisted of various groups: the blind, the low vision, the deaf, the dyslexics, physically handicapped, and then others that did not require specific interventions except to be given extra time. Most of these sat, only 12, that is 1.5% of the candidates did not appear for the examination. The board, as usual, made adequate arrangements for these candidates that included modification of their question papers, provision of questions written in Braille from a Braille form, providing support personnel for the handicapped and the dyslexics, and sign language interpreters for the deaf. The candidates with low vision were given question papers with enlarged print to be able to enable them to read more easily. And all special needs education candidates were allowed an extra 45 minutes in each paper. Performance of these candidates is reported in Table 6, which will be found on page 5 later on. Mama, allow me to compare the general candidates' performance for 2023 and 2022 examinations. Table 2 gives the performance in terms of divisional passes, division, or sometimes called grades. Division 1, 2023, we note that 64,782 candidates, or 17.9% of the candidates that sat, were able to pass in first grade or first division. This is compared to 46,667, or 13.5%. And the numbers and the cumulative percentages are indicated as one goes down up to grade 4. These are the ones that have passed. And then grade 9, those are the ones that did not get the minimum scores, enabling them to be graded. As can be seen from the table, performance in the 2023 examination is significantly better than that of 2022. The failure rate has also dropped by 0.5%. Honorable Minister, this means that 329,939, or 95.9% of the learners who presented themselves for the 2023 examination can progress to the post-UCE level. Mama will give in Table 3 a comparison of candidates' performance in large entry papers, again between the 2023 and 2022 examinations. We have picked those subjects that are appearing in Table 3. These are the large entry subjects. Some of them are compulsory, others have a very large entry. And we show the percentage that obtained distinction 2 and above, and also the percentage that passed at credit 6 and above, and the percentage that had an overall pass from grade 8 or and above. And we compare this. You can see from that table, Honorable Minister, that in English language, 3.7% of the candidates in the 2023 examination obtained at least a distinction 2, compared to 0.7% in the previous examination. Christian religious education, 17.2% of the candidates obtained at least a distinction, compared to 8.6% in the previous year. So the table shows that there is a significant improvement in English language, religious education, mathematics, and biology. However, noticeable drops were recorded in history, agriculture, and physics. Performance in the other subjects have remained comparable. In English language, the presentation by candidates of crammed passages from texts in response to questions which require them to write original composition has greatly reduced, which may explain, Honorable Minister, the significant improvement in candidate performance in that subject. Performance in science continues to be a cause for concern, with less than 20% of the candidates obtaining credit level passes in physics and chemistry, and 40% or more are unable to pass. It is worth noting, however, the upturn in performance in biology, which was mentioned by the chair of the board, which subject had been recording a steady decline in previous years. Examiners have attributed the low achievement levels in sciences to a number of factors, main among which are inadequate teaching that manifests in the inability of the candidates or the learners to master the basic scientific facts or concepts, lack of practical teaching that manifests in the learner's inability to manipulate science apparatus and carry out procedures as prescribed in the examination papers, and interpret any readings or observations that they could have made. There are schools that have been reported to have no science teachers, which, if it's true, exacerbates the problem. Most of the examination malpractice cases that were seen at this level this year were in the science practical papers. Honorable Minister, I now compare the male and female candidates' performance. Table 4 gives the comparison again in the subjects that we have looked at when we are comparing candidate performance. We note from that table that the female candidates performed better than the males in English language, and this seems to be the trend every time, Mama, we have presented results. Performance by females in English language has always been better. In the other subjects, the males perform better, with the difference being very significant in history, geography, the sciences, and commerce for this year. In chemistry, however, the male candidates show better performance in the higher grades, but overall, there is a slightly higher percentage of the females that obtain at least a pass. This trend in the disparity in performance of male and female candidates has been observed over the years, and we have reported this in previous release statements. Honorable Minister, I also compare overall performance between the males and the females in terms of divisional passes. We see that in Division 1 of first grade, 20.1% of the males pass, and then 15.8 female. In second grade or Division 2, the number of males passing is 24.5 compared to 22.9. Then the lower divisions, we see the percentage of the females coming up. So the table just confirms that the male candidates performed better than the females, and a trend that has been persistent. Honorable Minister, I also report on the performance of the group of candidates that we call special groups. First, the inmates. The Uganda National Examinations Board maintains an examination center at Luzira prisons for the inmates who are incarcerated there. This, the board does to assist the Uganda Prison Service in their efforts to rehabilitate the offenders. The center at Luzira registered 59 candidates, composed of 51 males and 8 females, and 58 of them sat. Only one candidate, a female, was absent from the examination. We want to hope that she was released before the examination. Of those that sat, Mama, 6, all of them males, passed in Division 1. 14, also all males, passed in Division 2. And 24, made up of 21 males and 3 females, obtained Division 3. 13, made up of 10 males and 3 females, passed in Division 4, and only 1 inmate did not make it. The other group are the special needs candidates that we give in Table 6. We categorize them as the blind, the deaf, the dyslexics, physically handicapped, and the low vision. We give the numbers that sat and those that not pass. We observe that the physically handicapped, the dyslexics, and the low vision do quite well. However, the deaf seem to be quite affected by their disability. With low vision, however, as had been observed at the primary living examination level, the deaf candidates appear more disadvantaged by their disability. Of these, 57.7 obtained Division 4. That is the lowest division, and 25.4 did not pass. Honorable Minister, I'm happy to report that cases of examination malpractice has continued to reduce. Most of the ones that were reported in this examination were external assistance given to the candidates inside the examination rooms, and the most affected were physics and chemistry practical examinations and mathematics. The affected schools whose results are going to be withheld will be notified through their portals, and they will also be notified from the dates of the hearings, as the chair of the board has already stated. Honorable Minister, management is very grateful to you for your appreciation of the work that we do and your encouragement. We are grateful for the support that you give us so that the necessary funds that we require are available. Honorable Minister, I'm very grateful to the chairperson of the Education and Sports Committee, the Honorable Tracy J. John Tamuhira, who is here present. The members of the committee, Honorable Dr. Jennifer Alanyo and Honorable Irene Linda, who are here for finding time to grace this ceremony with their presence. I appreciate the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development for availing the funds that we needed for this exercise and doing so in good time. I'm grateful to the security agencies that assisted the board during the monitoring of the field conduct of the examination, the area supervisors, heads of examination centers, scouts, invigilators, for a good job that they did during the course of the examination and abiding by the stipulated regulations of the board. I'm grateful to the examiners who marked the candidate scripts and the heads of the schools that allowed the Uganda National Examinations Board to use their premises for the marking centers. Mama, I'm also grateful to the press. The press has been there for us. They have reported widely and accurately on issues to do with the examination, and whenever a case of malpractice was discovered somewhere, some of them were on the spot to let the country know and look at some of the perpetrators of this vice. To them, I say thank you. Finally, Honorable Minister, I am grateful to my heroes, the staff of the Uneb Secretariat, for the hard work and the personal sacrifices that they make to ensure that the 2023 results are released today. Access to the results, Honorable Minister, heads of the examination centers will be able to download the results as soon as you release the results to the nation. For now, no hard copies are available, but they will be available in the course of next week for those heads who will want hard copies issued by the board as well. They will be notified as soon as they are ready for collection from the Uneb offices in Ntinda. However, candidates and their parents and any other persons wishing to access the results may do so on their mobile phones by going to the message menu and then accurately typing UCE, leaving space, and the correct index numbers of the candidate, and then sending these to 6600 on the MTN and the Airtel networks for now. Submission of result queries. Honorable Minister, we would like to encourage heads of examination centers to study the result lists that they will obtain and submit any queries that they may have to the board secretariat via their portals within 15 working days from today's date. Queries that will be submitted after this period may not be attended to. Honorable Minister, we have also provided district statistics showing the number of candidates, the numbers of candidates, both male and female, passing at the different divisions and the percentages, and they can compare to the national average, which is given at the bottom of that list. Honorable Minister, thank you so much for your kind attention. I beg to submit.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dan Odongo, the Executive Director of Uneb. Mama, we have 2 more items on the agenda, but before we proceed to the next one, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce and recognize a few of the key invited guests. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize the chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on Education and Sports, Ms. Honorable Twesije John Tamuhiro. I would also like to recognize the chairperson of the Education Service Commission, Professor Luboga. Then I'd like to recognize the Director, Higher Technical and Vocational Education and Training, Dr. Musene. Then I would like to recognize the Director, Examinations, Uneb, Mr. Mike Nangosia. The Executive Secretary, UBTEB, Mr. Onesimus Oyesiga. Then the Executive Secretary for UAHEB, Mr. Joseph Agondua. I'd also like to recognize the Undersecretary, Ministry of Education and Sports, Dr. Jane Gao. And then I'd also like to recognize the Secretary to the Education Service Commission, Dr. Osman Lukwago. Then may I also request very briefly the Commissioners for Physical Education and Sports, Education Planning, Private Schools and Education, Institutions, Policy and Research, Basic Education, and TVET Operations and Management to please stand up for recognition. Now may I take this opportunity to invite the chairperson. May I also recognize the members of parliament who are here to kindly stand up and be acknowledged by Mama. Thank you so much. I would now like to take this opportunity to invite the chairperson, Uneb, together with the executive secretary, to come and hand over the results to Mama. May I kindly also request the person with the materials to please hand them over. Please bring them forward. You're welcome, chairperson and executive secretary. May I kindly invite the PS, together the Minister and the Honorable Chairperson, Professor Luboga, to join Mama in this picture. Thank you. Thank you so much. Before I invite the Minister of State to invite the Minister to give her speech, I would also like to recognize Professor Okwakol, the Executive Director, National Council of Higher Education. Please. And now at this time, I would like to invite Honorable Kaduchu to come over, give her brief remarks, and thereafter invite Mama to give her speech. Could we just hold on a little? It's okay. You're welcome back, Mama. Again, before the Minister of State comes, I would like to recognize the Uneb team. I would also like to recognize Dr. Patrick Biakatonda, the Director for DIT. I'd also like to recognize the Executive Secretary for the Financing Board, Higher Education Financing Board, Mr. Michael Wanyama. Please stand up for recognition. Now, may I take this opportunity to invite the Honorable Minister of State Primary Education to come and give her remarks. And thereafter, invite Mama to come and give her address. Thank you.
Mama, the First Lady and Honorable Minister of Education and Sports, the Chairperson, Education Committee of Parliament, the Honorable Members in the Committee of Education, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Education and Sports, the Chairperson, Uneb, and the Executive Director, Uneb, top management officials of the Ministry of Education and Sports, and senior officers from Uneb, our security personnel, the press, ladies and gentlemen. Mama, today we are yet witnessing another milestone in our country through the release of UCE 2023 examinations results. Indeed, we give the glory back unto the Lord for bringing us this far. Mama, on behalf of my colleagues, especially the Minister of State in charge of higher education, the Permanent Secretary, and the entire technical team from the education sector, and on my own behalf, I take this opportunity to sincerely congratulate you as the head of education sector for this great milestone. As you officiate at the release of this UCE 2023 results, we do not take your presence here for granted. It speaks volume on the seriousness on which you perform your duty. Once again, thank you. Mama, I've got 2 points. Point number 1, this is a unique release of UCE examinations results because this is the last cohort of the learners who studied under the old lower secondary curriculum. The breakthrough we are celebrating today is a result of collaborative efforts of all stakeholders, the teachers, our learners, our parents, the Uneb officials, Parliament of Uganda, security forces, Ministry of Education and Sports officials, and our generous partners in education. Permit me to congratulate and thank all the stakeholders for a job well done. Mama, also permit me to warn the perpetrators of examination malpractices that government of Uganda will not tolerate examination malpractices under all circumstances. Uneb will ensure that the credibility of public examinations is maintained by putting all measures in place to sustain the gains we've made over years. Point number 2, Mama, also permit me to thank government of Uganda under the leadership of His Excellency General Yoweri promoting universal education that has now enabled more learners to join and complete school cycle. The universal education has now seen more learners progressing from primary to secondary education, of which we are very grateful to our president. As I conclude, thank you. As I conclude, Mama, to our parents, celebrate the joy of UCE examinations results and achievements with your children. Even those who did not perform to your expectations, there is still hope for them to repeat or to progress further in their career through other tertiary institutions available in the country. To the candidates, our dear candidates, please celebrate whatever results you have obtained. You worked tirelessly for those grades. You still have a bright future. I'm appealing to you not to harm yourselves or terminate your precious God-given life because of bad grades. Even if the grades are not up to your expectations, there is still plenty of hope to secure your future. When God says yes, nobody can say no. Mama, the nation is waiting. It's now my duty and my singular honor to invite you to address the nation and officially release the result. Ladies and gentlemen, let's together put our hands together and welcome Mama Janet as she comes to address the nation. I say all this for God and my country.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Kadwitu. Please sit down. Honorable Ministers of State for Education and Sports, the Honorable Chairperson and members of the Parliamentary Committee on Education and Sports, the PS, the Ministry of Education and Sports, the Chairperson of Uneb and your Executive Director, the media fraternity, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to you all. And we give all the honor and glory to God, who has enabled us once again to come together in recognition of the efforts of our children who completed the 2023 Uganda Certificate of Education examination. Today's event is the second of the 3 milestones that mark end-of-cycle examinations in the basic and secondary education level of our education system every year. As government, we are pleased to note the increase in candidature for the UCE together with the steady decline in the rate of absenteeism, as you heard from Uneb. Among the candidates who registered to sit the end of O-level examination. Therefore, as a ministry and all secondary schools at large, we celebrate the reduction of absenteeism. Nonetheless, we must also take keen interest in establishing what is causing this 5-year-long reduction in absenteeism, that we must forever lock it out so that we never get this absenteeism again. Certainly, as you have seen from the statement read by Mr. Odong, there has been a 55% drop in the rate of absenteeism in the 5-year period from 2018 to 2023. Once we fully comprehend what is driving the positive trends, then all effort must be made to sustain that. As was observed a fortnight or so ago during the release of 2023 PLE results, more girls have been registering and sitting a PLE. Now we are seeing a similar trend emerge in UCE. Much as we celebrate turning of the tide to keep girls in school, we must find a logical and reasonable explanation for the decline in the number of boys completing primary 7 as well as senior 4. Because our society can only be holistically healthy when all boys and girls join the education system and complete the respective levels. We don't want to always have a disadvantage of one gender against the other. We want to have all our children go through education that will make this country stronger. I thank Uneb now for continuing to ensure that the government's policy of inclusive education is being supported through making adequate arrangements and provisions for our children with special educational needs to take the examination. The examination results show that, given the right support, these learners will achieve at the same level as all the others will, with no disability. The 2023 UCE results have been better than those of the previous years, and we thank God for that. Uneb has shown us that pass levels have gone up and failure rate has come down. This welcome development must be sustained and further improved. However, to improve this positive trend, we must gain a full understanding of what is driving the positive trend so that we really know what we are doing and what we will no longer accommodate. Is it the effect of the abridged curriculum that was being utilized? Has anything changed in the way teachers facilitate learning these days? Has Uneb improved the design of examination questions to make them better understood by the candidates? Now, these are all questions that need answers to enable us to sustain and improve positive trends in learner achievement. Learning is a continuous process, and so is improvement. And to continuously improve learner achievement, we must be bold and courageous enough to ask the uncomfortable questions. From the UCE 2023 results, we see that more learners than before have qualified to transit to post-secondary level of education. Apart from the academic, thank you. Apart from the academic path leading to the Uganda Advanced Certificate of Education examination, parents and learners need to know that the technical and vocational The Ministry of Education and Sports has adjusted the application and selection process for joining technical institutions by establishing a decentralized admission process. For the last couple of years that the decentralized TVET admission system has been in place, we have noted a more than 100% increase in demand for technical education. Therefore, I call upon head teachers, parents, and the media to take more interest in how the decentralized technical education admission works so that you can be able to educate and guide our young people from an informed point of view. Most importantly, please guide the young people whose results we are releasing today, that they are free to apply to any appropriate technical institution by picking and depositing the application form at the nearest TVET institution where one resides. The ministry has provided an extended selection exercise to cater for UCE 2023 leavers who would like to apply to technical education institutions. As a ministry, we do feel a sense of responsibility and obligation to the learners who were not successful in the UCE examination. When the aggregates they got cannot afford them to progress to the next level, it is for this reason that we are providing an opportunity for them to repeat Senior 4. The Ministry of Education and Sports shall communicate to all head teachers and collect the necessary information to enable us plan for the appropriate resources for those learners. That shall be repeating from schools that are implementing the Universal Secondary Education Program. Furthermore, as a ministry, we have agreed that these learners who are going to repeat Senior 4 need ample time to prepare to retake the UCE in 2024 based on the old lower secondary curriculum. We have looked at all considerations and came to the agreement that no learner who is repeating S4 under the old lower secondary curriculum shall be disadvantaged in our transitional arrangements. Therefore, Uneb is going to further study this and formulate a roadmap which shall be communicated to the public once it is ready, as soon as possible, to enable preparations for registering those who are to repeat S4. I must thank Uneb now for the work so far done in ensuring that we have a smooth transition from the closure of the old lower secondary curriculum, end of cycle examination. Therefore, I encourage all eligible persons who wish to repeat UCE under the old lower secondary curriculum to take this single window of opportunity in 2024 and register for UCE once Uneb makes that announcement. I wish to make it categorically clear that the 2024 Uganda Certificate of Education examination will be based on the new lower secondary competence-based curriculum. Learners who are repeating UCE under the old lower secondary curriculum shall not be subjected to the assessment and examination processes of the revised lower secondary curriculum, and the UCE certificates shall clearly show this distinction. Those who will repeat, when they go through, they will still hold the certificate for UCE 2023, not 2024, even when they repeat in 2024, because the curriculum is different, and we don't want to disadvantage the 2023 candidates who will resit their examination. I'm also grateful to hear from the Uneb chairman that the board has embarked on stakeholder engagements. The revised lower secondary curriculum introduced a fundamental shift in methods of teaching and learning. So, creating awareness and getting the buy-in from all the persons whose involvement and participation is critical in its implementation is essential. This brings me to addressing the issue that has been asked, how far the ministry has gone with reviewing A-level curriculum. Indeed, the ministry commenced the process of reviewing the A-level curriculum. However, we later decided to slow down the pace and instead focus our attention, efforts, and resources on consolidating the implementation of the revised lower secondary curriculum, meaning a curriculum of O level. Since financial year 2019-2020 to 2022-2023 alone, the government has invested at least 130 billion shillings in the development and rollout of the revised lower secondary curriculum. This excludes the initial funding injected in the earlier stages prior to financial year 2019-2020. And I must say that we still are in need of more resources to ensure that our schools are well acquainted with what it takes to implement the revised lower secondary curriculum the way it was designed to be implemented. Therefore, we believe that it is not wise to embark on another rigorous venture of full view of the A-level curriculum in the environment of limited resources across government. We cannot afford at this time to withdraw resources from the implementation of the newly introduced revised lower secondary curriculum. Doing that shall completely mess up both the new and the old. We have been guided by the technical teams in the ministry that having learners of the revised lower secondary curriculum progress into A-level and utilize the existing advanced level curriculum does not in any way compromise their subject combinations. Furthermore, it does not jeopardize the academic grounding expected of them upon joining higher education. In a nutshell, let us first consolidate the implementation of the revised lower secondary curriculum before embarking on an overhaul of the A-level curriculum. So this is our position as a ministry regarding the A-level curriculum. I am happy to hear from Uneb that there have been engagements between Uneb, the ministry, and the Association of Biology Teachers to address the very worrying trend in performance in that subject. I can only hope that the improved results we are seeing this time is a product of the engagement and will be sustained and further improved because it is not yet at satisfactory levels. Improvements in teaching methods are a must, especially in the implementation of the competence-based curriculum. Perhaps I should also use this opportunity to comment about the issue of school fees and charges that comes up every now and then, especially at the start of a new academic year in basic and secondary education levels. As a ministry, we have received the broad direction from Cabinet regarding the need to implement free and compulsory UPE and USE. Free universal education means that for 4 items that government is paying for, learners in UPE and USE beneficiary schools shall not be expected to be charged in school fees. One area that the government shall not be paying for is the cost of boarding accommodation, even if such a service is offered in a UPE or a USE implementing school. And that is because there is not supposed to be boarding schools in universal education in all the schools we are building across the country. These are supposed to be day schools, but sometimes some schools do turn these day schools into boarding schools. And government is not willing to pay for boarding schools. And Cabinet also pronounced that all schools that receive public funds must implement free and compulsory universal education programs as applicable. And as a ministry, we shall have to hold conversations with the current 105 public secondary schools as well as the 109 public primary schools that are recipients of public funds but have not been implementing USE and UPE respectively. And Cabinet also went ahead to prescribe a list of 12 items which are categorized as not allowed to be charged as part of school fees in pre-primary, primary, and secondary schools. And these should be formally communicated to all schools by the Ministry of Education and Sports in the very near future. So, government shall start implementing free and compulsory UPE and USE in a phased manner, starting with UPE in financial year 2024-2025, and for this, an additional resource of 309.16 billion is required on top of the 1.3 trillion that government already spends on UPE in financial year 22-23. The reason why, as government, we are focusing on free and compulsory UPE and USE is to give an affordable option to our people who cannot afford the fees and charges in the private schools. And that is, I believe, common knowledge in this country now. And please make no mistake, the government is committed to investing in quality education in all schools, including those implementing universal education programs. Please know that government is really committed. All education in all schools must be quality education. With that, let me once again thank the chairperson, the board, executive director, and staff of Uneb for the wonderful work they have done in successfully delivering the results of the 2023 UCE examination. I congratulate the candidates who have performed well. For those who have not done as well as they expected, an opportunity has been offered. There is also time to seize the other opportunities available to acquire skills for life. I thank the teachers for the work done in teaching and preparing the candidates for the examination. I join Uneb in thanking the various security agencies of the government, as well as other stakeholders that made execution of the 2023 UCE examination successful. Finally, I'd like to inform the public that technical education selection date for UCE 2023 leavers is extended to end on Friday, 23rd Feb 2024. And 2, selection for Senior 5 shall take place from Monday, 26th to Tuesday, 27th of Feb 2024. First term for Senior 5 commences on Monday, the 11th of March 2024. It is now my pleasure to release the 2023 Uganda Certificate of Education examination results for the public, and may God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mama. May we please remain standing for the anthems. Thank you all for coming for this very important function. May we now please have a closing prayer. May I invite Reverend to come and give us a closing prayer.